The pandemic isn't really making a lot of people happy. It's a very global issue and everyone is affected by it, myself included. Being told that you're not allowed to go outside is quite a harrowing prospect, especially for all the extroverts out there who really love to go out and hang out with friends. Thanks to the pandemic, the extroverts couldn't hang out with other extroverts unless if it's that specific table in that specific cafe, and that is assuming if the cafe is still open. It's not just hanging out in general. The poor students who have to study at home is never going to experience what it feels like hanging out with friends at school and having to endure hours upon hours of lecture. If they're making a new Persona game, will every social link will be just like the Persona 3 social link? Will they just trap everyone's consciousness in the metaverse and pretend to have a normal high school year? Maybe the real world virus is something that is coming from some messed up shadow dimension and we have to figure out the demon responsible for it all. Probably Sandalphon? Point is, the pandemic is not a good time for everyone, and I don't really have to say that because I think every single one of you watching this video are suffering from its drawbacks. There's one group of people who have suffered a lot and whose story clearly need to be told to the entire world of their suffering. Disney superfans. No, really, apparently Disney superfans are the kinds of people whose story of suffering is worth documenting, or at least according to LA Times. It's been 214 days since Disneyland closed. For these superfans, it's agony. Oh no, how awful that these Disney superfans can't have access to Disneyland. Let's document the suffering of these people rather than the millions of others who can't even afford to go to Disneyland even if the pandemic isn't a thing. To their credit, they have documented the people who actually mattered, as in the doctors, the nurses, and of course the victims. It's just that when I try to Google the articles talking about it on this specific website, I can't read the entire thing unless if I pay them with subscription fees. I know that you're supposed to reward the people who document these stories, but putting these stories on a paywall is one of the ways for everyone to think that you're not really doing this entire thing for the greater good. I think your investment would be much wiser if it was spent on the links down below. The picture of the article showed Lauren, a Disney superfan who misses her weekly visits to the— hold the freaking phone right there, article. She misses her weekly visit to Disneyland. Weekly visit to Disneyland! You gotta be kidding me! If you're telling me that I should feel sympathy to someone who can afford to have a weekly visit to Disneyland, you'd be putting everyone into a weekly visit to the therapist. I do not care if it's cheap, or if you live close by to it, or if you have an annual pass. A visit to Disneyland should be a reward for something freaking amazing that you did, not a weekly visit. If you give weekly visits to Disneyland to your children for merely existing, you're a bad parent and you should be getting the belt. The fact that one of your weekly visit is to a freaking Disney theme park reeks of unrelenting privilege that can be used as an incitement for a class war. I am amazed in how these people can visit the same theme park with the same games every week. Like, what the hell do you even do there? Ride the same roller coasters? Buy the same merch? Sell your soul to the same mouse? Don't any of these people get bored by it? If I go to visit Disneyland every week, it would be my personal hell, in the same way as the nice place in the Twilight Zone. The article opens by talking about how it's been 214 days since Disneyland is closed, and this person named Stacy Major is struggling. Oh, how horrible that this 32-year-old can't fulfill her monthly Disney theme park visit to take a break from teaching at school. The school teachers here couldn't even afford a tenth of the one-time ticket. By the way, according to the article, it costs between $400 to $1,500 a year to visit the park on a weekly basis. Keep in mind that that's a yearly spending. I spent about $500 worth of games last year, and I bought enough games to populate a yearly best games list alongside honorable mentions that I certainly cannot populate this year. But at least I bought multiple different games, whereas you people are visiting the same freaking theme park and somehow you don't get yourself bored by the end. The article then says, against the backdrop of the pandemic, it's easy to understand why people miss Disneyland. I actually don't understand, writer. Please enlighten me.
For more than 60 years, the theme park has been the ultimate social and fantasy experience. It evokes warm memories of simpler times and allows us to experience childlike thrills regardless of our age.
There are cheaper alternatives for that, and you can get that at home. But alright then, I suppose people can only be pleased with actually visiting the theme park, and they have to visit them monthly or weekly, or else they'll go nuts. Maybe I am biased. Maybe these people will look at my video game hobby in the same way that I look at their theme park visiting hobby. They would probably say the same thing and say that it's not worth wasting $500 on simulated entertainment where you can spend $500 to get real entertainment. But even so, I would make the argument that my hobby is still a lot better than yours. First off, assuming that you are only visiting one Disneyland, the attractions are going to be limited to the space that the theme park is occupying. The video games, however, are limited to the hard drive space, and you can expand them as much as you want, whereas Disneyland can't always expand their territory. And even if you don't have enough hard drive space, you can still delete games and reinstall them when you really need to play them again. If there's something that Disneyland doesn't like, they're going to be removed and never be brought up again. Second, the Disneyland theme parks are going to be limited to the characters of the Disney's property and Disney's rules. Granted, Disney has a lot of properties, including Marvel and Star Wars, but the video game space allows room for other properties as well, and especially games that aren't exactly family friendly. You have the control over what kind of entertainment you want, or even what kind of theme park you want. If Disney removes a theme park you like, you can go suck your thumbs and protest, but they'll never bring them back. Third, you can enjoy them at the comfort of your own house at any time you want. You don't have to spend lots of energy walking from one place to another. Granted, this will make you a sloth if you keep on doing it, and playing too much video games can be an issue, but at least you don't have to wait until the next day or even until the pandemic is over just to make sure that Disneyland is open. You can play games at any time, at any point in your house, at any moment. Last but not least, you don't have to spend so much on video games. The console is a one-time purchase, and you can have that as long as it's still working. The games themselves can either be a one-time purchase or you rent them all through something like Xbox Game Pass. You can get these games on discounts during certain times on Steam. Some games are even free to play. That $500 worth of games that I spent last year, I could spend a lot less and still get by just fine. In fact, I am trying to spend less this year. You absolutely have to spend the annual fee for Disneyland, and as the article said, it can go from $400 to $1,500. So it's still a rather luxurious lifestyle compared to video games in general. But then you might ask, what happens if you don't have any video games to play? That's precisely why I have multiple hobbies. If I don't play video games, I listen to music. If I don't listen to music, I play the piano. If I don't play the piano, I watch films or TV series or anime. If I don't watch those, I read manga or light novel. If I don't read those, I write them myself, or at least try. There are many alternative entertainments that I can seek to please myself. I can be pleased by literally anything because I'm not some spoiled child who can only be pleased by a weekly or monthly visit to a freaking theme park. And these people really are spoiled children. One person says that in order to cope with Disneyland closing, she watches videos of Disneyland parades on YouTube and cry. Oh, boo-hoo, you freaking spoiled brat. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, it gets much worse. As I read through the paragraphs, it is very clear that this subset of incredibly obsessed Disney fanatics adopt straight-up cult-like behaviors. Gathering on Disneyland produces the sense of being in a community. Disneyland is a community, said a guy who visited a theme park in Anaheim 123 times last year. 123 times! Jesus, dude! People would kill for just one visit, let alone 123. What really amazes me about these fanatics is the fact that they can enjoy just exclusively Disney stuff and not get bored. Gotta give them props. They are quite loyal with the brand, but at the same time, they also say that they feel depressed and uneasy and feeling unfulfilled in life because they only have one hobby and only one specific hobby in one specific place in a specific freaking company. One segment on this article that blew my mind is how visiting Disneyland theme parks keeps us on a high and our blood pumping. If you're going to compare visiting Disneyland to getting high, then the people who visit them every week can be classified as addicts who genuinely need a rehab.